At some point in every human life, there comes a quiet, devastating moment. It doesn't usually happen with a bang. It happens in silence. It's that late night moment when you look at a blank screen, a stack of unpaid bills, a stalled project, or a goal that suddenly feels impossibly far away and a single voice in your head whispers, "What if I just stop?" Quitting is the most seductive option available to us. Why? Because quitting immediately halts discomfort. It releases the pressure valve of uncertainty. The moment you decide to surrender, your anxiety drops, your brain stops burning excess energy, and you return to safe, familiar ground. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The relief of quitting is temporary, but the cost is permanent. When you abandon a goal, you don't just abandon a destination, you abandon the person you would have become if you had stayed in the fight. Today, we aren't just going to talk about big cliches like staying strong. We are going to examine the science, the psychology, and the practical framework of perseverance and why refusing to give up is the single greatest predictor of long-term human success. In 2007, psychologist Angela Duckworth conducted groundbreaking research at the University of Pennsylvania to determine what makes top performers succeed. She studied West Point cadets, National Spelling Bee finalists, and elite professionals across multiple industries. She measured IQ, talent, socioeconomic background, and physical fitness. But the single greatest predictor of outcome wasn't talent or intellect, it was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for long-term goals. It's having stamina day in, day out for years. When you feel like giving up, what is actually happening inside your brain? Your brain's primary objective is survival, not self-actualization. When you push through hardship, your brain registers cognitive friction as a threat. However, neuroplasticity proves that every time you endure frustration and force your brain to engage with a difficult task, your neural pathways adapt. The resistance you feel isn't a signal to turn back, it is the exact biological mechanism of growth. Frustration is not failure, it is the sensation of your brain expanding its limits. Why do most people give up? Because they misunderstand what failure actually is. Society teaches us that success and failure are complete opposites, that failure is a dead end. But history shows us a completely different reality. When Thomas Edison was developing the electric light bulb, he tested over 1,000 different materials before finding a filament that worked. When asked how it felt to fail 1,000 times, Edison famously replied, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." Sir James Dyson spent 15 years testing 5,127 prototypes before creating his breakthrough design. Imagine failing 5,126 times. Most people would have quit after 5. But Dyson didn't interpret each failed attempt as a personal defeat. He interpreted each one as a piece of data. When you separate your self-worth from the outcome, failure ceases to be a barrier and becomes a blueprint. A fixed mindset says I failed, so I'm a failure. A growth mindset says this approach failed, so now I know what to adjust. Consider the mechanics of invisible progress through the 31-degree ice cube analogy. Imagine sitting in a room cooled to 25 degrees Fahrenheit with a block of ice in front of you. You slowly heat the room. 26 degrees, nothing happens. 27, nothing. 28, 29, 30, 31 degrees still. The ice remains completely solid. Then you hit 32 degrees. The ice begins to melt. A 1-degree shift no larger than the shifts before it unlocks a complete state transformation. Most people quit at 31 degrees. They work for weeks, months, or years without seeing visible returns, unaware that all their effort is being stored as potential energy beneath the surface. Success is rarely linear. It is exponential, hidden behind long periods of invisible progress. When you refuse to give up during the invisible phase, you allow your effort to reach the boiling point. The work is never wasted, it is simply accumulating. There is an important distinction we must address. Never giving up does not mean blindly running into a brick wall using the exact same strategy that isn't working. There is a vast difference between quitting and pivoting. Quitting is abandoning your long-term goal because the emotional discomfort became too overwhelming. Pivoting is maintaining your ultimate vision while changing the tactical path you take to get there. When an airplane flies from New York to London, it is off course for over 90% of the flight due to crosswinds and air turbulence. The navigation system continuously recalculates and adjusts course. It doesn't turn back every time wind hits, it corrects its trajectory and keeps moving forward. Never give up on the final destination, but remain entirely flexible on the path you take to arrive there. Adaptability is not surrender, it is intelligent perseverance. When motivation fades, and it will fade, you cannot rely on temporary feelings. You need an operational framework. Here is a 3-step mental protocol for moments when surrender feels like the only option left. First, apply the 48-hour rule. Never make a decision to quit in the middle of an emotional low. When frustration peaks, commit to making no major strategic decisions for 48 hours. Lower the cognitive load, rest, sleep, and let the emotional wave pass before evaluating logically. Second, shrink the horizon. When a goal feels too vast, your mind panics. Don't think about the next 5 years or even the next month. Focus strictly on the next 24 hours or the next 60 minutes. Ask yourself, what is the single best action I can take right now? Third, shift focus from output to input. You cannot always control immediate external results, but you have absolute control over your inputs. Showing up, executing the task, and maintaining your standards regardless of immediate feedback. Nobody builds a lasting legacy during easy times. Anyone can maintain focus when the sun is shining, the results are rolling in, and applause is loud and frequent. The true test of your character, the exact moment your story is written, is what you choose to do when nobody is watching, when results aren't visible yet, and when giving up would be completely rationalized by everyone around you. Years from now, you will look back on this exact chapter of your life. You will either look back with deep pride that you stayed in the arena, or you will look back wondering what could have been if you had walked away. The wall in front of you isn't there to keep you out. It is there to give you the opportunity to prove how badly you want what lies on the other side. Rest if you must. Pivot if you need to. But whatever you do, do not quit. Keep pushing. Your future self is waiting on the other side.